All right. Well, it's the bottom of the hour, and thank you to all who are in attendance. Today, we're giving a webinar on navigating the risk on-premise versus cloud accounting solutions. So Gartner has said that 85% of businesses will have moved to the cloud by the end of 2025. So this is a very timely topic for us today. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We are offering CPE credit for this particular webinar. So if you are here for CPE, please be sure to answer all of the poll questions. That's how we verify participation on these online events. If you have questions at any time during the webinar, please use the Q&A function. And when there is a break in the action, I'll be sure to jump in and ask Misty if she can answer them. And if we can't answer them, we will certainly follow up after the webinar. Following the webinar, you will receive 1 or 2 emails from us. One email will contain slides, a recording, and a link to a survey. We ask that you allow 48 hours to receive that. And a second email, the first email will be coming from me. The second email is coming from our sister company, and that will include your CPE certificate. And they ask that you allow up to 2 weeks to receive that. If you don't receive it after 2 weeks, my email is right there, dawn.westerberg@lbmc.com. Please reach out to me and I will chase it down. In the time that I've been here, I've only had to do that twice, but just to be on the safe side and have a safety net, we've got that there. So let me introduce our speaker today. It is Misty Palick. She works for LBMC Technology Solutions, and she is the practice lead for our Sage Intact Construction and Real Estate solution. So the topic today is for all industries. And as I mentioned, we'll be talking about on-premise versus cloud. Misty has over 25 years of experience in the field and has seen many companies move from on-premise to the cloud. LBMC Technology Solutions has helped hundreds and hundreds of companies or organizations move from an on-premise solution, whether that be entry-level solution like QuickBooks or Peachtree, Sage 50, or a mid-range solution to the cloud. And so she'll be talking about the risks and the benefits. So Misty, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the warm introduction, Dawn. So if you guys haven't figured it out, I have a little bit of a cold, and so we're going to be fighting through that today, but that's okay. We're excited to be here and welcome everyone. These are today's learning objectives. So first, we're going to identify the fundamental differences between on-premise and cloud accounting solutions. Second, we're going to assess the security risks associated with both on-prem and cloud-based systems. Perform a cost-benefit analysis to determine the financial implications of each solution. And then finally, learn how to future-proof your accounting infrastructure by choosing the right solution. So before we jump in, let me formally introduce you to who LBMC is and why we like to say sometimes the partner you choose is more important than the software choice. So as you can see, we're more than just a software supplier. We offer comprehensive solutions for your organization and entire IT ecosystem, from IT services, solutions, and support to automation tools that simplify your life and ERP system implementations. We cover it all. Plus, our full development department is ready to help you build whatever you need. And that's just our technology division. There's even more to explore. So we're like a family here, and as you can see, our expertise go beyond just the technology division. We offer services in accounting and finance, human resources, cybersecurity, wealth advisory, and even staffing. But why choose LBMC? As a collective firm, we've achieved a great deal over our 40-year career. Our certification as a great place to work demonstrates that we truly value our people as one of our most treasured assets. I'm one of those people. Pretty exciting. So let's take our first poll question just to gauge the audience. Dawn, are you ready? And you're on mute, in case you didn't know.
Here we go. Oops, sorry about that. I thought it had launched. Here we go. Hopefully everyone sees that. But what we're asking is what kind of accounting solution are you currently using? Are you using an on-premise solution? Are you using a cloud-based solution? Are you using a hybrid? Maybe it's a situation where you've got an on-premise solution that's hosted in the cloud, or if you're not sure.
Yeah, I think this is a really
So I'm
good,
going to give it, go ahead.
I was gonna say, this is a really good question. It'll be really interesting to see the outcome of, a lot of times, I bet you we'll see a lot of hybrid because, many companies are on a legacy software for their kind of accounting platform, and then they have a bunch of bolt-ons that are cloud-based. So I'll be interested to see the
All
poll.
right. Well, here are our results. We have got 55%, over half on a cloud-based solution. Next is 27% who are on premise, 9% who are on a hybrid, and 9% who aren't sure.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. So that tells you that's a sign of the times, I feel. Okay, so I would like to start this on-premise versus online quarrel, as I call it, by showing you a visual of the iceberg theory. Now, I think this is a really interesting analogy, and it's quite fitting when you compare on-premise solutions to cloud solutions. And we've all been using cloud technology for at least the past decade. I want you to think about it. When you log into an app on your phone, like your bank's website, you're using cloud technology. Cloud technology has been around for a very long time, and it's just becoming more apparent that everything is moving to the cloud. So let's take a closer look at this graphic. On-prem solutions might seem more appealing at first glance, but you might not be considering what's beneath the surface. Think about the hardware, like servers, even virtual servers can be more costly than true cloud software. Implementing an on-prem solution also requires more effort than a cloud solution. Not only do you have to configure the software, but it also needs to be physically installed and maintained by trained professionals. So when you're comparing the two, are you really considering the total cost of ownership? Are you evaluating both the upfront and long-term costs? I love this graphic mostly because it just shows you all of the, things under the surface as far as an on-premise solution goes versus the cloud where there's not much underneath that water line, right? It's just implementation, customizations, and training. Most of the fees actually come up front, which is at the top of the top water line. So let's do another poll question. Dawn?
All right. Ready to go with our second poll question? And this is asking about your concerns. What is your primary concern regarding cloud accounting solutions? Is it data privacy? And you can choose more than one here. Data privacy, downtime and reliability, subscription costs, compliance, or some other concern.
This is a really, one of those questions that I like to say, let's get the scary out in the open. What are you afraid of here? I always like to know, and it's okay to be afraid. It's absolutely acceptable to, feel unsure about, you know, going to the cloud, and hopefully we can kind of calm some of those fears today.
All right. So here are the results. Over half have a concern about both data privacy and subscription costs. And following in second place with 36% is downtime and reliability. And a little less than 10% are concerned with compliance.
Okay, that's good to know. For sure. Okay, so let's start talking about some of the security risks. So here's a simple table of the pros and cons when evaluating the security risks of on-prem versus cloud-based ERP systems, because that's what we're talking about today. So understanding the security risks involves two key aspects. Number one, trusting your internal IT expertise, and then feeling that apprehension around relying on an outsourced consultant. However, with a product like Sage Intacct, you're not dependent on a third-party consultant per se. The software publisher, Sage, knows their product inside and out, including all its intricacies. For instance, updates are handled by the software publisher, who is intimately familiar with their developed product, so you never have to worry about that again. For those concerned about the security of moving to a cloud platform, Sage Intacct highly dedicated to security. They offer SOC 2 compliance, intrusion detection, firewalls, vulnerability management, antivirus, system hardening, and robust router network infrastructure. So I want you to ask yourself this question. Internally, your internal server, do you have all of those things in place to protect you from security risks that you might experience with an on-prem solution? I bet the answer is no. Plus, you'll never have to back up your data again. If you do go to the cloud, that Sage Intacct backs up that data for you. So you never have to, carry home the backup tapes like I used to have to do back in industry many years ago. We change out the tape every night for the server so that the backup is kept off-site. So you never have to back up your data again. Let's go ahead and take another poll question.
All right. Seems to be taking a while for it to populate, so sorry for the little lag there. The third poll question is, how likely are you to consider switching to a cloud-based accounting solution in the next 12 months? And the choices are very likely, somewhat likely, unlikely, not sure. And I'm guessing our unlikelies are going to map up to the folks that said that they were already using a cloud solution.
That would make sense, sure.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we have 18% that say they are very likely to be moving to the cloud in the next 12 months. And we have another 9% who are saying it's somewhat likely. And then the remainder are unlikely or not sure.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I would say, it is kind of a transformation that a lot of people are going to the cloud now. Just to mention, I had heard the other day that, just like you mentioned, Don, that there's such a great percentage of people either already on the cloud or transitioning to the cloud now. So let's talk about the cost benefit analysis of going from on-prem to the cloud. And when you're comparing the cost of these two situations, you can see that although on the surface it sometimes appears that cloud-based are more costly because they are forever, that you will rent a software no longer owning it, like an on-prem solution. But when you consider the maintenance of an on-prem solution, it adds up quickly. Think about how much your in-house server costs for you to host your legacy software on. Even if you're kind of in the cloud and you've got to log into, say, an Azure server to access your ERP, the cost of that server is not free, nor is it free for the IT personnel who you use to maintain it. When you add up all the other costs besides the actual software costs, you can quickly see that the cloud-based is a better return on investment. You no longer have to maintain that server. You no longer have to have an IT professional to maintain that server for you. And as having been a consultant in the Sage ecosystem for going on my 28th year, when Sage first announced that they purchased a cloud product like Sage Intacct back in 2019, I have to admit I was nervous that maybe some of my work would be eliminated. What do I mean by that? Well, who do you think has been responsible for all those regular updates to clients' on-prem solutions? Me. Or consultants like me. What I learned though was just like AI in our world now, it's meant to free me up to do more important things. I soon became to realize that it just gave me back spare time to tackle bigger, more complex projects for my clients. So no worries there, like the consultants are not going to go out of business. There's still much work to be done, but now we get to focus on more elaborate and complex projects. And because I don't want this to all be about me talking, because hey, I'm kind of losing my voice anyways, but I'm going to jump into Sage Intacct just for a few minutes to show you the power of cloud accounting. So you can see firsthand what we're talking about here today. So what we're looking at is Sage Intacct, and you'll notice a few things. I'm just using Google Chrome as my browser of choice. Intacct is browser agnostic, so you can choose any browser that you so like. Really, all you need is a decent internet connection. Notice that I didn't say great internet connection, because there has been times where I've been able to log in with kind of shoddy internet connection available to me. So it comes back to that reliability thing. Sage Intacct has like a 99.99% uptime. They are rarely down. In the 6 years that I've been using Sage Intacct, I've only seen that twice. So it's not dependent upon Sage if they're going to be reliable and up. It's really dependent on your internet service. So what we're looking at here is I'm logged in as Emma. Emma is the controller in this environment, and she has all the authority and security clearance necessary to actually drill down on transactions or run, financial reports that shouldn't be available to everybody. With enterprise level security and Sage Intacct, you are always in the know. You always are in control of the what, when, where, and how. And you'll notice that this is a CFO dashboard. Of course, not everybody would have access to a CFO dashboard, but because we're looking at Emma today, I like to showcase this dashboard over others just because it's colorful and I like color. So as we scroll down here, you're going to see some colorful bar charts and pie charts. You'll notice we've got some KPI cards up here. Now, dashboards are unlimited inside of Sage Intacct, so you can build as many as you want. They can be user specific or global. You can drag and drop these around. It is drag and drop technology. You can easily add another widget if you so choose, if you want to see like a report or something like that. And then also keep in mind that, I think it's power to the user. This is my opinion, but I think it's power to the user. So what Sage Intacct offers is the ability to have data at your fingertips. You no longer have to run a query or a report to get that information. This is live information in the system. If somebody had made a transaction in the background that affected cost of goods sold, this screen actually updates every 30 seconds, but you can do refresh if you're impatient, or hey, we're using Google Chrome. We could just do refresh up here. And it would go out to the system and pull back that information to these KPI cards based on the transaction that happened in the system. So this is real live data. And the power to the user thought process that I have is that we can provide an employee user into Sage Intacct for different companies. But what that allows users to do is have data at their fingertips. So you no longer have to run a bunch of reports for other employees at your firm. You can simply just say, here's an employee log in and see it for yourself. And then you can control their user experience. So you can say, maybe I need to see this as a stakeholder, but I can't drill down on anything. I'm not going to be able to actually see our general ledger. I'm just going to be able to look at this data and, see how we're doing as a company whole. So keep in mind that, you can have different kinds of users that are logging into your system so that you can, get them the data that they need quickly. Because it's all about getting the right data, trusting your data, and then being able to prepare decisions based on that data. So, you noticed I mentioned trust. Trust is incredibly important with your data, that you need to be intimate. And I actually saw a webinar yesterday that talked about 70% of companies don't trust their data inside of an ERP system. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One could be, the end user putting it in incorrectly. One could be that their system is broken and they just don't know how to fix it. So they just kind of muddle along and use Excel to, mitigate that risk for them. All sorts of reasons why people don't trust their data. But inside of Intacct, the idea is that you're going to have one source of truth. So I'm going to share something with you that is very unique to Sage Intacct, and it's called dimensional accounting. And what dimensional accounting is the ability to segregate your data out. And again, remember, I'm Emma the controller. So if I was not her, I would not be able to do this. But I'm going to actually drill down into this admin piece of pie and give it just a second here. I say that it's fast and then sometimes it's not. So we're going to drill down and see what makes this up. And we're going to actually go down into the journal entry just so you can kind of see what a journal entry looks like in Sage Intacct. And you'll notice that, sure, we have our base GL account. That's standard. You'll notice that there are no segments here, though. There's typically in the chart of accounts, there might be salary and wages, and then -10 for New York and -100 for sales. So those segments usually happen in the chart of accounts. But what we have in Intacct is dimensional reporting and dimensional accounting. So that means we get to tag these transactions line by line where we want to slice this pie. Where we want to take the 16,000 is going to go to location 110 New York, 100 sales, channel, nothing for project. And then if we drop this shade, we're going to be able to see customer, vendor, employee, item, warehouse. And then with certain modules, we will be able to see even cost code and cost type for those construction companies out there. So you're able to take line by line of a transaction, whether it be a journal entry, accounts payable bill, time entry, expenses, even accounts receivable, and put it in a bucket, which I like to call the subledger bucket, right? So we have our general ledger, which is the master of everything. And then we have subledgers underneath there that help us segregate our data. So the only thing in this bucket right here is everything. But if we chose a filter, if we said, I just want to see it by one entity at a time. And I did forget to mention, Intacct is brilliant at multi-entity management. So if your organization has more than one entity, know that it can handle that seamlessly. And you can operate and allocate from the top level to an entity, or you can operate at an entity level. So the intercompany transactions become much more fluid and easy to operate with. But you'll notice that all our numbers changed, and it was a matter of maybe 10 seconds. And now if I click on this admin piece, you'll notice that this number is different. And that's because the only thing in here is anything that is tagged to this 100 USA 1 entity. So then it's going out to the entire system and it's looking for anything that is tagged to that specific dimension. So, that's kind of dimensional accounting in a nutshell, but I also want to display real quickly the reporting center. Actually, let's talk about company setup first. So Intacct is cloud-based, and I believe that the real advantage of a cloud-based platform is because other cloud-based platforms play nicely with other cloud-based platforms. And so because Sage Intacct has open architecture, it allows for seamless integration with other products. So if Intacct cannot be the one all be all software for you, that you need something customized to your business, it's likely that it's in the marketplace for Sage Intacct and it will seamlessly integrate in. But I want to show you real quickly here that these are all the things that you can import into Intacct, which is pretty valuable. Just using a CSV template or Excel template, you could simply import all of these things inside of Intacct, like your accounts payable bills, your accounts receivable bills, your job budgets or budgets in general. So even journal entries. So if you didn't want to give everybody access to your ERP system, but you do have staff who prepares journal entries or allocations, you could simply fill out the template and import them in. And we're going to pop over to the report center because this also displays the power of dimensional accounting. So you saw on the dashboard how we could filter out the data by entity. We can also run any kind of report by a dimension. So I'm going to show the location profit and loss real quickly here. And you can see that the reports run pretty quickly. So you do have that ability as far as that goes. You'll notice that it puts in columns all of the different locations and entities within the system. So again, if you are multi-entity and you need to, see it siloed by entity or even location, those kind of are a little bit interchangeable somewhat, but the location is like actual location, Boston, New York, those live underneath an entity. So you can see that it put it in columns and silos and broke out, this is what we did in Boston. So we had, $137,000 in profit. And this is great for comparison to go, you know, Boston did a little bit better than New York. So then you can create reports based on that information too. If you want some analysis between different locations or different departments or different projects, you're able to do that because of the power of dimensional accounting. And then because I do have security clearance, I could drill down on this and go, what exactly makes that up? And these are actually accounts receivable invoices. And I know that because this journal is called AR Journal. And you'll notice that we can print this, we can send it to Excel. It does come over very nicely to Excel, neatly formatted, or we can email it right out of the system. That's our choice. So if you do have to provide reports to, people who do not have access to Intact, it's very easy to do that. Because you could just run a report. Now this comes canned with the system. I didn't do anything special. I didn't build a custom report. This is just standard functionality with dimensional accounting. So I haven't seen that, really done very well in another product. So I just wanted to share that. Any questions out there, Dawn? I just want to take a pause and see if we've got any questions.
Nope, no questions so far. But a
Excellent.
great reminder, if you do have any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we'll stop from time to time and answer your questions.
Absolutely. I'm going to share just a couple other things real quickly over here in Sage Intact. And one of those things is this inter-entity account mapping. And the reason I'm sharing this is because there are many companies out there who say they're in QuickBooks. And, QuickBooks is a fine product. There's nothing wrong with it. But Intact, takes it to another level. They're very gap they follow GAAP principles. They were built by accountants for accountants. They've been around since the 90s. So it's heavy accounting, as I call it. But one of the advantages to having Intact as a multi-entity environment is I'm able to really map my intercompany transactions. So you can see that, I've got this mapping that anything that I book to this entity is going to run through accounts payable and accounts receivable to automatically book the journal entries for us. And what that means is if I'm doing a journal entry at the top level, it's automatically going to use this mapping and then map it out. So if I were down at an entity level, for example, I would just be able to see that entity's information. But if I am at the top level, I could certainly see all of that information at the top level. So I'm just going to go down into my journal entries real quick here. And you'll notice that we've got lots of different books, and I'm going to say include top level transaction. And we're going to take a look at the intercompany transaction entry. So it's only going to book this journal entry one time from the top level, but only a piece of the puzzle or pie is actually going to this entity. And that is because that entity is considered right here in the location. It is tagged to that entity, which means it's going to put it down in that bucket. But if we go back to the top level and we look at the same journal entry, so if we go over here and we say journal entries and we go to general journal and we look at the exact same one at the top level, you'll notice that we actually have 3 different entities tagged here, but it only booked the $950 at that entity that we were just looking at. So that's kind of the power of dimensional accounting as well, because it uses that location or that entity as a dimension to segregate your data again. But you can do easy, intercompany transactions. So if you are a multi-entity company, I think that this is the belle of the ball for Sage Intact, and the ability to manage all of those entities at once. And now you can always control those entities to say, this person doesn't have access to that entity, and you're always in control of the security. I just want you to know that. We also have a lot of, unique features. We do have something called Collaborate, which is not working for me at the moment, so I'm not going to show that. But what that Collaborate does is it actually will allow you to communicate. I call it the social media of Sage Intact. And so it will let you tag people in a transaction and say, hey, Penny, this isn't right. You need to fix this, or all of those things. So the Collaborate is kind of handy, just to tag a transaction, and then it lives at that permanent record forever. Like you can't delete your comments or whatever. So it's tied to a record, which is good. We do have really nice help and support. So I'm just going to show you that real quick. And I've actually taught myself a ton of stuff based on, just using the help files. They've got great videos in here. They've got, really well-defined policies and procedures around any topic that you so want to learn about. So I, usually send clients here first just to go, what, is there something in help that it could actually help you before we talk, to see what your project looks like. You're able to search throughout the entire system. So, if you're looking for a transaction, for example, and you're like, I'm just not really sure, you could say, show me anything with the number 14 in it. And it would actually go out to the entire system and look up anything that's 14. So that might be a job, that might be, an AP bill, a payment, anything that's in the system. So, QuickBooks Online could do some of this functionality too, but it doesn't have multi-entity or dimensional accounting. And I'm not going to let that spin forever because it's just looking hard for that information. You'll notice that we have all the major functionality as far as cash management, accounts payable, purchasing, accounts receivable. We actually have something called order entry, which is really cool. It sort of acts like purchasing, but under accounts receivable. So you can do work orders and sales orders. We have some bolt-on modules like projects, time and expenses, inventory, fixed assets, consolidation. So we're able to, really get the most out of our ERP software. It's, it comes with the core, obviously, so that you can manage your accounting, of course. But then we do have some other segments that we can bolt onto your system. They're basically modules that we would turn on and off, like project management. It's pretty good at managing different projects as far as that goes, because we've all got projects, even if we're not in the construction space like I've been for so long. We all have projects to manage. And in fact, LBMC, we eat what we serve. So we use Sage Intacct internally. And so we run our contracts through here, our projects through here. We're able to, do our time inside of Intacct. In fact, that's where I put my time when I have to enter it. And that's how it gets billed out to customers and clients. So, I think we use it very effectively compared to some of the other companies I've worked with in the past. So we're very fluent in that language as well. Okay. Okay, so, that's kind of a lot, and I went sort of fast, so hopefully everybody kind of got a little bit of something out of that. Is there any commentary as to if someone wants to see something in specific? Because we do have an extra few minutes here.
So, in moving from an on-premise solution to a cloud solution, how long does it take? And you had mentioned that the cost was significantly less, but probably not if I'm coming from QuickBooks.
Right. I wish that there was a magic bullet that said, take my data out of QuickBooks, push a button, and then all of a sudden I'm in Intacct. QuickBooks has done something unique to their space. And so what I mean by that is they actually do have a migration tool. So if you are going from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, they will actually transfer the data for you. Ours is a little bit more complex because we're talking about going from two totally radical systems from each other, right? Like if you were coming from QuickBooks Online, for example, to Sage Intacct, we're obviously different. We have much more functionality and capabilities as far as that goes. So there's never an easy answer to say, oh yeah, we just push a button and ta-da, we're done. That takes a little bit of time. And then also think about it this way. If your general ledger is not dimensionalized, and what I mean by that, it's just by account, and it says, salary and wages is 60/10, and that's it. That there's no dimension added to that. But what if you want to dimensionalize it? What if when you bring it to Intacct, you want to add project, cost code, cost type, vendor, customer, employee? What if you want to add some of those dimensions? Well, that's totally doable inside of Intacct because we can import almost anything. So we import your historical data for you. But it's up to you as to how far you want to take it. Sometimes general ledgers can be, thousands and thousands and thousands of lines. And somebody would have to actually go back and dimensionalize each line to say, I want it to go to this job, I want it to go to this cost code, this cost type, which is very, very time consuming. So, it really depends on what availability the client has for that migration piece. And just to note, we do have a webinar coming up in February 12th that talks all about that. We're going to kind of go through some of that migration tools that are out there and how you can use those to help, get your data into Intact faster if you are migrating to a new system like Intact. There's many clients on various, even Sage legacy systems that there still is not a magic tool that just kind of migrates you over. So it's a process, and it's kind of how far you want to take it as well. How far do you want to dimensionalize it, or do you want it just to be starting balances and you're calling it a day? And then, like with QuickBooks Online, if you cancel your subscription in QuickBooks Online, you get a year of read-only access. So you have a year to look at that data and decide, like if you have to go back in history, if you did not load your full dimensionalized general ledger into Intact and you were making the transition, in QuickBooks Online, you get a year to view that information. And some other legacy systems, we might recommend that you keep a user over there because that data is yours. It's always going to be yours. And that's the same with QuickBooks Online or Intact. The data is always yours. The software is not. The software is rented to you. So, keep that in mind too, that yes, you can download a file in your general ledgers and all of that, and you can actually pay Intact to download a file. I don't know how you would open it though. That would be interesting without the software. So the data is always yours, but the software as we transition to cloud solutions is not always, that's the software publisher. Good
So
question.
another question, I've not heard about Sage Intact. Can you tell me a little bit more about the solution? Misty, you might want to bring up on this one the AICPA endorsement, Gartner and G2 client sat.
Yeah, I don't have that handy, Dawn.
Okay. Well, I can take a stab at that one. So Sage Intact is the first and only financial cloud solution to be endorsed by the AICPA. And obviously, if you're here for CPE credit and you're an accountant, you know that the AICPA is the governing board and actually um, creates what the rules for which we have to be compliant. And so it's not a one and done. It's not something that anyone else has achieved with the AICPA. It's something that is unique to Sage Intact. So they're very, very proud of that distinction. For multiple years, I don't know if folks are familiar with G2, but G2 is kind of a online Yelp-like service, but what's being rated are software solutions. So G2 puts out annual reports and quarterly reports regarding um, what they glean from these oh, from these reviews that they get from people using the software. It's completely unsolicited. The end users go in of their own accord to share these reviews. And for something like 7 or 8, maybe even 9 years by now, Sage Intact has been number one in client satisfaction. And they have beaten out solutions like Oracle NetSuite, Acumatica, and have received just glowing reviews from end users. And that's part of the reason that we at LBMC love Sage Intacct so much is that our clients love it. And we know that once they get it and are familiarized with it, they they're very happy going forward. And then the final accolade is Gartner Group, who I mentioned at the top of the presentation. They're sort of like a technology strategy research group. And software companies go and sort of present not only their solution, but their vision for the future and talk to Gartner about how they see not just their own product, but how they see the technology landscape mapping out, kind of a forecast of what they think is coming. And then Gartner has their own experts who have an idea of what the technological landscape is going to look like. And so after this, they have what they call the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And if you think about an X and Y axis, heading towards the upper quadrant is um, sort of the best accolades that you could receive, that the software solution really is well positioned for the future, that the software solution delivers what it says it's going to deliver, and that it has public support, that it's not just being used by one or two people, but by tens of thousands. And Sage Intact has, again, this is going on several years now, has appeared in what is called that magic quadrant in the upper right-hand side. And so what what that all says is that you can feel confident from an accounting standpoint, that AICPI endorsement, from a technology standpoint, the Gartner evaluation, and from most importantly, an end user standpoint, ease of use, getting the job done, delivering on what was promised from the software is the G2 reviews. So I'm sorry, that was sort of a long-winded way of kind of going through the credentials of Sage Intact. Back to you, Misty, with um, what with you mentioned dimensional reporting. We use a chart of accounts. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by dimensional reporting.
Okay. That's another question that's out there.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for that sharing that. I think that was very awesome, Dawn. But yeah, so the dimensional reporting really has to do with however you're transacting in the system. So one of the ways that that happens is, I'll just show you an accounts payable bill, for example. So if we're looking at an accounts payable bill, you'll notice that we have a bunch of dimensions down here, and those dimensions are location, department. If I drop this down, you're going to be able to see channel, customer, vendor, employee, item, project, warehouse, asset. So those are called dimensions within Sage Intact. And what that allows it to do is actually take and break out each line and put it into that bucket. So if I wanted to run any kind of report based on one of these dimensions, then I would be able to see just that information. So if I go back to the report center, and I kind of showed this in the beginning of looking at a dashboard for just administration. And maybe actually that's a better way to show it. So let's actually go do that. Let's go back to our CFO dashboard. And you'll notice that, here, I'll just demonstrate that real quick for you. We do have a couple more slides to cover too, so I want to leave a little time. But you'll notice that all my numbers updated. And so if I drill down into this admin piece of the pie, you'll notice I'm at 2,060.80 cents. And what that means is that I have no dimensions configured here or selected as a filter. But if I choose a dimension, so this is an entity, and I say, go ahead and apply that to all of my numbers here. And then I drill down on that admin piece of pie again, you'll notice I'm only at 1,378.25 cents. And the reason for that is because anything that is tagged to that actual entity is the only thing that's going to show up here. So we've got a couple general journals that are tagged to that entity, and then we've got a couple bills that are tagged to that entity. And I only know that because of the journal. The general journal is, just general journal entries, and then AP journal is AP journal. So accounts payable journal. So you can see we've got a couple bills and we can even take a look at that and see that firsthand. It's going to location 100, which means that anytime I select a filter on our dashboard, it's automatically going to segregate that out and say, just show me the stuff that's tagged to entity 100. Hopefully that answers the question. I think, it's really like at the time of transaction that you're tagging these different dimensions, which allows you to segregate your data. Now, sometimes when I tell people that, they get a little freaked out and they're like, now how many dimensions do I have to put in here every single time? Because there are 9 standard dimensions, and then if you get like the construction module, you then have 11 standard dimensions. And no, you do not have to put it in every line. There's lots of dimensional relationships that we help you set up so that you can transact faster in the system and automatically, align your department and your location with your project. So those exist as well. But it's really at the time of transaction: journal entries, AP, accounts receivable, time and expenses, anything that you're transacting in the system, you're going to tag with a dimension, which is going to allow you to slice and dice that pie any way you want it. Okay,
Great. No more questions, at
awesome.
least so far.
Right. Let's get back to our and hopefully our PowerPoint here. So we hope that we provided you with some valuable insights as to what a cloud-based product can offer. And let's actually do our final poll question, which this is my favorite one, of course, because I would love to, shower folks with some one-on-one attention as far as that goes.
All right, so this might seem a little weird, lunch and learn all about you. But what we're offering here is an opportunity for you and maybe some members of your team to get together with our cloud experts. And we can do this virtually, or if you're local, we can do it in person. And in both instances, we will provide lunch and we'll just talk through the very specifics of your situation, whether you're on an on-premise solution looking to move to the cloud, and what your concerns and options are, and just very specifically what you need to get out of such a move. So this is our final poll question. And let us know if you would be interested in a lunch and learn all about you. And as Misty indicated, there's a very good chance that she would be on that lunch.
Absolutely. If you haven't noticed, I'm very passionate about helping people, of making the right decision and choice. Being that trust advisor for different clients has been my expertise over many, many years.
Very good.
Absolutely. So,
All right, I'm going to end the poll.
okay, excellent. So I want to thank you for joining us today, and I would love for you to reach out to us and schedule a personalized one-on-one session, even if you didn't answer yes to our last poll question. We're happy to help. Well, that's what we're here for. And I'd love for you to remember that sometimes the partner you choose is more important than the software itself. So here's our contact information: myself and then Eddie Finley, who is our sales director. Either one of us would be happy to help you in, helping you streamline your operations, build a better future. All of those things are important as we all transition to the cloud, right? For sure. And then we
Abs-
do finally have some upcoming webinars. And I don't know, Don, if you want to, these are specifically for construction, but you're always welcome to attend. You never know what you're going to learn. I try to keep it definitely interesting, but these are some construction ones that we have coming up.
Yes, and in addition to the construction webinars that we have coming up, in February, we're going to be hosting a webinar specifically for nonprofit organizations. And in March, we will be hosting a webinar specific to healthcare organizations. So depending on what industry your company or organization is in, please be watching your inbox, and we will be certain to send you an invitation to one of those events. So I thank everybody for attending today. Misty, any final thoughts?
I also want to thank you, for putting up with my squeaky voice. That's very awesome. And I wish you all well.
Very good. So thank you for joining LBMC Technology Solutions. We always like to say that we want to be the last technology company you'll ever need. Because we provide a high standard of customer support. We have a very deep bench when it comes to consultants who are both skilled with on-premise solutions as well as cloud solutions, though definitely the trend is moving to the cloud. If we can help in any way, as Misty said at the top of the hour, we're not just limited to ERP solutions, though for both she and I, that's sort of our main focus. But we also provide cybersecurity, help desk. We outsourced CIO, IT directors. We can help in any number of ways. If you ever have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Misty, thank you for soldiering through. And in spite of a very bad case of the flu, presenting today. And thanks to our audience. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.